Good afternoon, David.
Christopher, good
How
to
are we
see
doing?
you.
Good to see you as well.
Yeah, well, you had a busy week last week because we had to record early, didn't we?
We did. But we're back to Tuesday and the sun's
Yeah, we
shining.
are. You were kind of Mr. Hump It and Shift It, weren't you?
I was removal man. I won't quite use those words.
Yeah. I've had one or two people worried that you as we said last week, did your mother-in-law know she was being moved? And they were rather concerned because so she'd been locked in a removals, what do you call it, storage unit or something.
Well, her furniture's locked in a storage unit. She's ensconced. She's ensconced in a holiday home for a couple of months. But I won't say who's got the key.
Well, there we are. Well, I'm pleased she's safe, and so are you.
And we're all safe. We're all well.
Good. That's good.
No major physical injuries.
No. Well, that's good. I'm pleased. So it's going to be a good week this week because we're going back to John's Gospel, aren't we?
We're back to John's Gospel. Jesus is going to cleanse the temple.
He is, in a story people will know well, I would think, from one Gospel or the other.
But I'm sure hopefully we can think of a thing or two that maybe they haven't thought of before.
Hopefully. You mean the deep theological point of our getting together each week?
That's the one.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Well, if we have a pause... You can read from John's Gospel, chapter 2.
Jesus cleanses the temple.
Ooh.
The Passover of the Jews was near, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and the money changers seated at their tables. Making a whip of cords, he drove all of them out of the temple, both the sheep and the cattle. He also poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. He told those who were selling the doves, "Take these things out of here. Stop making my Father's house a marketplace." His disciples remembered that it was written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." The Jews then said to him, "What sign can you show for doing this?" Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." The Jews then said, "This temple has been under construction for 46 years, and will you raise it up in 3 days?" But he was speaking of the temple of his body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this, and they believed the scripture and the word that Jesus had spoken. When he was in Jerusalem during the Passover festival, many believed in his name because they saw the signs that he was doing.
I always have a bit of a smile when we read this reading. I remember when I was a youngster at church, 8 or 9 or whatever. We used to have a Holy Week youth group meeting, which the vicar always led, and we used to kind of hear various stories based on the week of Holy Week. And then we'd kind of be asked to kind of act them out or whatever. And I used to get into trouble. I know you'd be surprised at that, Chris.
I can't ever see you getting into trouble, David.
But I
such saintly smile that you've got.
Exactly. Well, I remember that when this story was read every year, and we were in church, and it came to the turning over of the temple, the tables and stuff. I became over exuberant and used to dive across the altar rails and all kinds of stuff, and end up being sat in the front pew as a kind of punishment for my misdemeanors. And so I can't read this reading without thinking of my bad former days as a young boy in church.
Hard to imagine.
I know. All those years ago, as a member of the Satellites Club.
Although maybe I will find out that from some of the good people of the Beaminster Area Team, you never know, they might tell me one day that nothing's changed.
No, may do. Hopefully that could be the case. Who knows? But there we are. So, yeah, cleansing of the temple. And, of course, that's one of the stories that does appear in all four of the Gospels.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference being that in the other three Gospels, it appears at the very end of Jesus' ministry as part of the what happens after the triumphal entry into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. Because the other Gospel writers don't have Jesus going to Jerusalem at all until that very moment. Whereas John's Gospel has him backwards and forwards, Jerusalem to Galilee, quite a bit. And hence it's placed right at the beginning of the story, or John's Gospel. I find it all so intriguing how it's all put together in the different Gospels.
Well, I think John just has a different purpose. I've never thought of John as the person who was trying to do an accurate, factual, historical record of Jesus' movements.
No.
John has a purpose right from the beginning. Just like in our Lent groups, we're talking about Mark is written for a purpose. John's purpose is it's always known as the spiritual gospel. John begins, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, the Word, etc. And the Word became flesh in verse 14. So right at the start, Jesus there at creation, Jesus as God. Here we are, verse 2, or chapter 2, the Passover. Jesus goes to Jerusalem, and it will be destroy this temple, and I will raise it up in 3 days. And introducing this conflict and contradiction that we often have between body, church, and temple.
Yeah, and in between, of course, so that creational story, which we all know so well, as we've talked about a few weeks ago, you've got the baptism and John's testimony. You've got Jesus calling the disciples, and then you've got Jesus calling Philip and Nathaniel. Yeah. And the wedding of the Cana in Galilee. You've got these kind of signs, because in that reading he says, when they saw this happen, they believed, or words to that effect.
Yeah.
And you've got these signs, as they're known of in John's Gospel, which I think there were 7 of them, weren't there? 7 signs that brought people to faith and to understand who Jesus was.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting, isn't it? Does it, after he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered he'd said this.
He said this, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Where, of course, as I say, in the other Gospels, when you'll come across it, if you read them, it's right at the end. Everything has been done. The ministry of 2 years or a bit in Galilee has happened. Jesus is now set off. Whereas in John's Gospel, he's from day one, he's telling us what is going to happen in the future and what the outcome is going to be.
So what does that mean for us, David?
Well, I think there's a number of things in that reading, and you identified one when we were talking before we started recording, and that's something about all this incident that we've heard of today happened in the temple. And the temple, of course, is the temple being built, the second temple in Jerusalem, being built by Herod in the first place and finished off by his sons because it took so long to build, 46 years. The temple wasn't just the place of worship. It was the gathering of salespeople, as we heard. It was where people went, to be. And so it was far more than just a place where God was worshipped. And in fact, to the Jewish tradition, of course, God lived there, didn't he? That was the place where God was. Whereas in our place today, and you asked the question, what does it mean for us? Part of what I think we've become sidetracked with is the church is not, it's not the centre of worship. The church is a place we get attached to because we like the building. Yes, we feel God there, and it's a place that we go to. But the building somehow becomes more important than what goes on in it if we're not very careful. And I think that's part of what we've got to look and say, what is God actually saying to us? What's it about? But actually what God is saying to us and what he's teaching us is that actually everything that he wants us to do has to take place outside of church, other than worshipping him. When we come together on a Sunday corporately to say our prayers. But everything else takes place outside.
Yes, his work was all outside. Although I do find it interesting, actually, how much of what Jesus did happened in the temple.
Yeah.
How much of his teaching happened in a synagogue in Capernaum.
Yeah.
Which is obviously where he lived before, as that was his main base. Mm-hmm. So we got this use of the church, and it's hard to separate. Well, I think what Jesus is trying to say is, we need a holy place to worship a holy God.
That's right.
I do wonder sometimes how we turn it into a marketplace.
Yeah, and I think that's very true. And I know you don't mean marketplace in its literal what we understand, as a place where you can go and buy goods and whatever, but as a place of a place that is overtaken for what it's meant to be. Yeah, I agree. And that's what Jesus was saying. This place is meant to be a place where God is worshipped and adored.
Yes, and so often we can get caught up in trying to make even our church services entertainment for us.
Yeah, if you're not careful.
There to make us feel better.
Yeah, if you're not careful, that's exactly it.
And there's always a risk. And it's one of the things I think as priests we're almost trying to be guardians against.
I would agree. And I think part of the problem, and you I think hit the nail on the head earlier on when we were talking, is that we have this mixed metaphor of what church means, don't we? The church is the building. It's the church in the marketplace, or the church in the village square, or whatever. But the church, of course, are the people of God. That's what you and I would teach, and I'm sure you've said it 1,000 times, and I've said it 1,000 times. But the church, people of God. I think
I've said many times that we always need two words for this, a separate word for the building.
Yeah,
there's a lot of our Methodist friends, etc. They call their building a chapel.
Yeah,
where they go to worship.
Yeah,
so they can then call the people the Church of God.
That's right.
And we need both.
We do.
We can't just throw one out and say we don't need the other. But it's easy to get confused when you only have one word with two meanings.
Yeah, absolutely.
As to which one we're talking about when we talk about it.
That's right. So do we need some cleansing? That's what you're suggesting to me, Chris.
Do we need to cleanse our temples?
Yeah, do we need to cleanse our temples?
Well, I think sometimes it's good to have a review of what we're doing and clean them up. I'm always heartened when I hear people do pop into churches to pray. And I think, the churches do have an important role to play in helping us get together to pray.
Yeah.
But it's so easy just to get distracted by, there's something on the wall, or, church will be finished in 5 minutes' time. We've got to the last hymn. I'm not going to sing the last hymn because I'm going to go and put the kettle on ready for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting because I had a lady many years ago when I was in Shropshire still, who told me that I'd ruined her Christmas because I'd changed the time of the Christmas midnight service to 9:30 because I had to do another one at 11:30. Because in the past, when she went to 11:30, she knew that when she got home, she would put her oven on and put the turkey in, and by the time she got up to go to 8 o'clock Mass the next morning, it was cooked perfectly. And I'd ruined that by bringing the service forward 2 hours.
An overcooked turkey?
Because the turkey would have been overcooked by the time she got up.
Oh.
So you're getting this. We've got to get our priorities right, haven't we?
I presume your advice was, get up at 5:30 and do an hour and a half's meditation, private meditation.
If you'd have known Beryl, you wouldn't have dared say that. Like most clergy, I'm but a tame and timid person at heart. So I would not have been any good at turning the temples over. other than when I was a boy diving over the altar rails, causing chaos for the poor vicar, and things like that. But it's a lovely story to get us beginning to think, but it's also getting us to think now towards the focus on what's going to happen in those last few weeks of Easter, because it is a story that focuses the thoughts on God is there, active, ready, and expectant through Christ. That this is what's going to happen. He's going to cause problems. He's going to cause great disturbance when he gets into Jerusalem, and that's what's going to lead to his death.
Yeah, which makes this sound a bit of the wrong place for it historically to be, doesn't it? At the beginning of John's Gospel. Yeah. Because Jesus isn't really, he's creating, like you say, he's creating quite a disturbance. And no wonder he would have upset quite a few people if he starts chucking their money on it.
Absolutely. But in John's Gospel, it's there because it's looking forward and telling us what's going to happen. In the others, because of the historical trail, it's actually telling us what happened and the results of what the actions were.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But maybe then when we do get to read it in the other Gospels, it's a reminder of just how easily it is to upset some people.
It is. It is. Well, there we are. Well, you've got your phone going. Come here. I've been throughout the meeting trying to keep the hound down. Up you come. Come and say hello. As everyone can see, the hound has been wanting to say hello, and I wouldn't let her. So there we are. Say hello, and now time to go. Bye-bye. Off you go. Disappear.
That almost looks like an abuse of a hound.
No, she was jumping. I was trying to keep her down. So I was in the middle of our deep theological discussion. The dog's nose didn't suddenly appear full screen. But she's. I think
my phone is now unplugged.
Oh, well done. I have this, as I've explained to our dear viewers, it's great to you're still with us, dear viewer. As I explained some time ago, we have a big blue button on my phone. It took me 3 years to work out that if I pressed it, it'd silence the phone. It only says silence on it.
Oh, right. I can't turn the ringer off my phone.
Oh, I can. Yeah, I can. I can now. It took me until about last September to realise if I pressed the big blue button, it stopped the phone ringing in the study.
Right.
So there we are. All good. All good. Well, we did get one reaction from the Duchess of Poundbury after I mentioned her last week, because she told us we were like old washing women, you'll remember.
Oh, that was right. Yes, I said.
But I did mention her on last week's whatever. We got a sarcastic comment back from the Duchess of Poundbury, but she's still a fervent watcher.
She's still watching. She hasn't switched off.
So hello, Lady Margaret. Good to see you. Hope that our other contacts are all there. Good to hear from you, and do keep telling us what you think. And we like the feedback. And hopefully you'll be back again next week, Chris.
Hope so. I plan to be. I think my diary's still free for next Tuesday to record.
That's good. That's good. Well, thank you all very much. And thank you, Chris. And thank you to the Eggardon Colmers, whatever they're called, because I always get it wrong. And I know I shouldn't, as rural dean. I should know exactly.
Rural dean ought to get these things right.
I know I should get it right. But thank you to them for loaning you out to us for half an hour, as Harry puts it, I think.
That's right. As their punishment, I do tell some of them they've got to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I would do. If they don't give enough money, you're threatened to make sure they have to sit and watch it every week.
Yeah, they've got to sit and watch Rev Chat.
Or they can pay up and get away with it. Otherwise, you can follow us on all the usual platforms, and the Beaminster Team. It'll be Facebook. It'll be on our website. It'll be on Instagram. It'll be on Twitter. And, of course, in the Eggardon, Colmers, Eggardon, all those parishes where Chris is, it's on their normal platforms. Do look out for us. Thank you very much, and we'll be back next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.